celebrating 16 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Daniel Hood, Part 2.
This is Anything is Possible. I love what I do because one of the things I've always wanted to do was throw light in the world. And one of the ways you can do that is by showing people stories of possibility so that they can imagine their own stories of possibility. And today we continue a great interview with Daniel Hood. He's with us today. This is part 2 of our conversation. If you missed part 1, you can go on YouTube, just search AIP online and put in Daniel Hood's name, and you can catch up and join us in today's conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
What a story. Kingsport, you grow up really poor.
Yep.
Start playing football at 4 instead of being Elton John.
Yeah. Still this day, that's one thing I want to be able to do.
You will do it then, you will do it. And you hit a rough spot.
Yep.
You make some bad choices.
Correct.
But you're given some second and third chances.
Yeah.
And throughout, though, you had this really powerful relationship with your mom.
Correct.
Tell me about your inspiration.
So of course, mom is really everything now, and we didn't always have a great relationship. And growing up, everything was good. You know, she got cancer when I was probably 7, 8 years old. Ended up having to go live with my dad at that point. Lymphoma cancer, which is tough.
Do you remember the cancer diagnosis and how you were told, and were you able to understand what it was?
You're not really able to understand completely. I think the best way to completely understand that feeling is, I can't even put it to words, is Matchbox 20 has a song, 3 a.m. Everyone's probably heard it, but they probably don't know the meaning. And he wrote that song at a point in time in his life when his mom was diagnosed with cancer and going through that. Why does mom sleep all the time? Why is she sick? You know, why can't she go outside? Why can't you have all this stuff? Why is she hurting? And just so that period of, you've got so many questions you can't figure out the answers to. If you can ever YouTube 3 a.m. acoustic and hear him tell that story, that's really what it is. And it just hurts. And, you know, like, oh, why do I got to live with dad? I was living with my brother. And so we were never ever able to actually live with mom again, because things ended up going well with dad. And then mom did recover from that.
So she beat cancer.
Yeah, she beat, and to beat lymphoma is really tough. I mean, the mortality rate is one of the higher ones, especially back in, you know, that was 97, 98. But she was a fighter, and she fought through it. Ended up getting some other jobs, getting out of that housing level because of her dedication to education. 2007-08. Made the decision to go back to college. She wanted to help more people. And so that's where I get that goal from, is she was going to college to become a social worker. She says, I want to help kids that are troubled to get out of that situation and to do something better, to help them out. And she just kept fighting every single day. And it took her a while and she never got to graduate because, of course, the recession hit. Recession came, and the guy that she was with, you know, at that point they'd been together, 18, 19 years. It was absolutely incredible. Completely lost his job. And the decision he made was, he kind of let that depression from that take hold, to come into substance abuse and to experiment with some things that really he shouldn't have.
Now you're living with your father as all of this is developing.
So I was living with dad when mom had cancer. Then 2003 to 4 is when I started living by myself.
Right.
I don't want to downplay dad at all either. You know, dad was, he grew up in a rough scenario. 1 of 7, so he fought during that time too. And because of how he fought his entire life, by the time we got to that 2004, 2005 range, he was financially able to allow me to live by myself in Knoxville and to do that type of stuff, to go to college or to go to Catholic high school, to afford to pay for that type of stuff. And so I had great fighters on both sides, completely different backgrounds. Mom and I ended up being a little closer because she ended up moving to Knoxville because she wanted to be closer to closer to me. And so Catholic high school, like Dad never missed a football game, never missed a wrestling match, basketball game. You know, Mom was able to come to many of them, not all of them. You know, but yeah, so that 2008, 2009 crushed her boyfriend, which I call him her husband just because they were together so long.
It's so long.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was a game changer. Why don't we take a break right here and we'll pick up there. But what I'm noting is maybe the tenacity that's in your spirit is from their DNA.
Yeah.
This is Daniel Hood. This is Anything is Possible. What happened to his mother? Pretty incredible. You do not want to miss that. You'll hear that story in just a moment.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
He made the decision after, you know, being drunk all afternoon and that morning, that he would rather both of them be dead, and then instead of him living alone without her.
Man, you've been to hell and back.
28 years old is what I try to say.
Dang.
Not young, you gotta be old.
Your mom, when we left off in the story, her common law husband, the recession hits. I remember the recession hitting, and a lot of people got wiped out. I have friends that are contractors and developers, just got wiped out. So this guy...
He was in contracting.
Was he?
Yeah,
so
wiped out.
Wiped out. And so that puts him in a tight space. Your mother is hanging on. He rolls into substance abuse and gets on that spiral, which is, man, that's hard to beat. What happened?
It's tough. And so that lasted about 2 or 3 years. You know, he, you know, after 2 or 3 years, he was never able to find that same job to make what it is. Pride, I think, got in the way a little bit. Instead of taking a job for a little less and just continuing to help his family, he faltered. And so it was Father's Day, which was the ironic part of 2012, June 17th. And I invited him out. I said, hey, you've been like a father to me. You've almost been more of an emotional father than really my dad. My dad's business-like. And I said, man, please come out. Dan, I'm sick, I can't come out. So my mom and I go to celebrate. We watch a musical and that type of stuff and really celebrate Father's Day in his honor. And I remember hugging Mom and that type of stuff, and I'd always thought about going back to see him that day, and I didn't. And of course that leads me to, you know, that pain and regret is the one thing you'll never forget. But he made a decision. And my mom borrowed my car that day. She said, Dan, I love Alan to death, but I got to do something to motivate him to change. She said, so I'm moving out, and I'm going back to live with our grandmother in Keenesport. And I said, well, Mom, take my car. I said, I got a second car. I said, take this one, you can load everything up, so if you need anything, call me. And I can remember the last text message that night. She had sent me something like, Dan, I really love you, thanks for helping me out. And I sent back like, Mom, thanks, I'm in bed. They didn't respond back with, I love you. And then later that night, 3 a.m., he made the decision after, you know, being drunk all afternoon and that morning, that he would rather both of them be dead, and then instead of him living alone without her. And so he made that decision. And so that was a Monday the 18th, Tuesday the 19th. I don't really think of anything. It wasn't uncommon for us not to talk for a few days. Wednesday the 20th, my grandmother calls me. Dan, I'm really worried. And at that point, the second she said that, it all hit. And I knew exactly what had happened. And it's at that point in life that you realize every sign that you've missed. But I had an obligation to the team. And so I left class early.
How old are you?
At that point, that was 2012, so I'm 22. And so I leave class, but I said, hey, we got a conditioning test today. And so just my dedication, I went to there, I ran my conditioning test in a matter of minutes, which the guys took 30, 40 minutes to do just because that's the adrenaline pumping. And, you know, I'm probably doing 120, 130 going to their apartment. And when I get there, it was one of the doors that had the double locks on the inside. So one of the deadbolts you can't access. I could feel that it was locked. And I said, well, I know it's a hostage situation or they've both passed away. And so I kick in the door, knock the door completely off the hinges. And I still see it clearly to this day. I walk in and the kitchen and the living room's dark. There's a bedroom on the right that lights on. And so I guess I've watched too many movies because I go and search that bedroom first to make sure nothing's in there or anything like that. I look down at his phone. He had 147 missed calls and 83 text messages. The last one from his daughter saying, "Dad, please." And then I come back out and I walk to where their bedroom is. And the actual bedroom was on, so the bedroom was on the right and it had a little bathroom on the left. Bedroom light was off. There's a bathroom light on to the left. And then as I'm approaching the door, I look down to the right, there's a gun in the floor. And so I'm talking to my brother on the phone and I peeked my head around the corner. And of course there's Mom who'd been shot in her head. And of course his body, where he had committed suicide, had just collapsed like an accordion. And so at that point,
And you see all this.
Mm-hmm. I found both of them. You know, every single crime scene you've ever seen on TV, I don't think really gives you that moment of what it is. And so you remember it. Like every time that I go into a bathroom and there's a vanity and a toilet beside it. You know, what we ended up finding out later was that Mom didn't die instantly. And so even though she had a gunshot wound in the back of her head, she ended up bleeding out. And so she had propped herself up in between the toilet and vanity. And so we called the police and get everything that way. And I just remember just that feeling of, I always call it the pain of regret. And there's a football coach I had at UT that told us this my freshman year. And I think I was too arrogant to not realize what he was talking about, to recognize some of those signs, to appreciate that relationship more, to say, like, to even finish that text message on Father's Day. "Hey, Mom, I love you. I just want to let you know." And so you go through those things, but life always has kind of those balancing moments. And so the girl I was engaged to at the time, you know, she came over and of course visibly upset. And at that time, you know, I'm in shock, really don't know what to feel. And I asked her to drive my car home, and I drive the car that's got all my mom's stuff in it. She had packed up her car, everything was in there, all of her clothes and everything. And so I drive this car back to my house to kind of have that feeling, just to feel Mom that one more time and to experience it. And it's really in that moment that I think I changed who I became as a man, because you're searching for some type of feeling. At that point, you've set a new bottom. You know, that's as low as life's going to get at that point. And so you're just trying to find one thing. You know, we talked about expectations last time. We talked about just trying to be just a little bit better. That's when I found
3 a.m.
that 3 a.m. acoustic song. That's when I found the meaning of it. Mom and I had listened to that song 150 times before. Neither one of us never knew that moment. And you're talking about in the moment, as I'm doing 45 miles an hour driving down I-40 East, I find that song. And you're talking about tears come down. I mean, if I put it on right now, I'd bawl like a little child. And you find that, and you find that humanity in those moments. And then the other song that I went back to is Tupac had a song called "Dear Mama." Absolutely beautiful song. And I started listening to the lyrics for the first time. You know, you've seen these things 100 times, but when you take the moment to understand it, and you realize, like, damn, every single thing he said in that song was like I've experienced, you know, and went through things like that. And I just remember getting back to the house and being able to have almost those two moments help get me through kind of that next little time, because that was, and that started what I call really the dark age of my life, because to overcome that took years, and it took a lot of people to really pull me out of that with the football team, with Coach Dooley. I mean, I was, you know, thinking about this, I was the one person in town, Coach Dooley was blowing up my phone. "Dan, I just want to be there to support you. I just want to be there." And I'm not answering phones. I had 230 text messages, things like that. Coach Dooley was so motivated, to his credit, he was knocking on doors in South Knoxville where I lived, driving a Lexus, trying to find my house just to be there with us.
Wow.
And so that's when I talk about investing in people. That's what we try to do. I want to be that Coach Dooley to someone else, and people have done that, for me as well.
Let's take a break. When we come back, what I'd like to talk about is from darkness to light.
Yeah.
You got to help me figure out how you go from darkness to light. This is Daniel Hood. You're watching Anything is Possible. Man, this is powerful. More in a moment.
Coming up,
I also knew that it started with forgiveness. And for me to start with that, I went to his funeral.
When you found them that day, you went into the dark ages.
Yeah.
What happened, and then how did you find the light? And what hope would you give people watching today?
That's a great question, and really went back to, Dooley and I had a conversation, and he gave there's a poor mother that lost her son in a terrorist attack before 9/11, and they're asking her after the guy was, apprehended, how do you feel now? What do you want to happen to this person? And she looked at him, and it's kind of funny, and said, well, when you get bit by a snake, do you chase the snake or do you address the wound? Mm-hmm. And so we went back to, how do we address the wound? And for me, it went with, I got to get back around my brothers. And so I missed 3 days. So in all of that, and the different funerals and all that stuff, I missed 3 days of workouts and said, man, I got to go back. I got to work with those guys. And then we started meeting with, there's a guy named Dr. Tennyson, who's retired now. And so we worked with him to get through a lot of those complex emotions that you really can't put words on, things that I couldn't. Because now at that point, my biggest fear in life is that I would ignore signs of depression, signs of substance abuse, signs of things like that, and that I would hurt someone the way someone else had hurt me. But I also knew that it started with forgiveness. And for me to start with that, I went to his funeral. You can hold that anger in.
Jeez.
And you can be upset
about it.
You went to his funeral? I went to his funeral. And my brother and I both went to it. And we actually, at his funeral, were smiling, having a moment together. He wasn't a believer. But they were having a Christian themed funeral. And my brother and I were in the back smiling, laughing, crying together, because we loved the guy. 19 out of 21 years, there's not a better human being on this earth for my mother. 2 years is what got him. And so you never judge by one action, you judge by the whole of the life. And we're back there laughing, crying, because we're just sitting there thinking, man, if Alan was here right now and he heard them, giving a Christian funeral for him, he'd be rolling over. And so we started with that. We go through. We set a plan with, the psychiatrist to help overcome a lot of those emotions. And it always came back to football. I was always with my guys. And there was a time that, Dooley and I had a meeting in October. And you got to think, this is Dooley's last year. And so when we're losing some of these football games, I'm getting to see fans throw drinks at Coach Dooley, who's the guy that helped pull me out of a dark spot, make fun of him, make fun of his wife, to say things to his kids. And Dooley and I had the conversation. I was like, Coach, I'm done. I was like, I don't want to be a part of a football program where that is allowed. And we had a beautiful conversation. He says, Dan, they just don't know. They don't know the work we're putting in. They don't know we're trying this stuff. They're seeing this, they're gauging this, and they're right in having those feelings. We got to do better. And he said, that's part of us being accountable. And so I finished that season. That was going to be my last season, especially since Dooley was gone. And Coach Jones came in. And with everything in life, I say to me, the truth is always changing. It's never really black or white. So I said, before I make a decision on my future, I'm going to give this guy a chance. And because people give me chances my entire life. I met with him, loved the guy. I met with the strength coach, absolutely loved him. Said, you know what? I'm going to give it a week. And then that week turned into something else. And then we go back to, Now we know bottom. How do we set happiness?
What'd you figure out?
To me, it's always people. The people help get you through that. And then it also starts with you. And so when you look at a glass of water, you appreciate the water. You realize you can't change the part that's half empty, but you respect the truth of it. And that's where you get the happiness. You're respecting what's not there. You're loving what is there. But the truth of it is just being there in that moment.
Wow.
And so you take that and you apply it to really everything you're going. And so now you say, my truth is, who have I helped? And the part that's half empty is, who can I not help? And there's a lot of people that, we're not able to help right now. That my biggest motivation is the reason I want to grow, the reason I want to do this, is I want to help more. But I can't change it. I'll be able to one day.
Wow. What a story, Daniel. Your life really is a story of possibility. I know your business is growing, and I know that you are growing as a person.
Yeah.
And I think you're destined to help a lot of people the same way you've been helped, because you are a person of possibility. Thank you for doing this today.
Thank you. Thank you.
What a blessing. We'll see you next time on Anything is Possible.